I spoke the word, you were singing over me. You have been so, so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so, so kind to me. And all the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down flights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. And all the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. When I was your foe, still you fought for me. You have been so, so good to me. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. You have been so, so kind to me. And all the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. And oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. And all the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. And all the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. And oh, it chases me down flights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. And oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God.
Human beings are hunter-gatherers. We have ingrained in us the urge to hunt things. And unfortunately, sometimes it's a necessity that we have to hunt for things. When was the last time you lost something and really had to look very hard to find it? It happens to us all the time. And sometimes we're hunting things and we even forget we're on the hunt. until all of a sudden we find accidentally what we were looking for. I bought my first computer more than 30 years ago. I didn't know it would be a life-changing purchase. I didn't know that it would consume so much of my time and energy. Boy, if you could get a tan from sitting in front of a screen, I would look like George Hamilton today. But on that first computer that we had, we used to play games, and this was before three-dimensional, high-definition games. We played text adventure games. And there's no pictures, it's just text. And so you would start it up and it would say, you are in a cave with passages leading right, left, and ahead. What do you want to do? So you would type left. You go left, and it would say, you're in a small room and there is a chest. What do you want to do? And you would say, open the chest. Ooh, a bag of gold, you know. So we would spend hours doing these text adventures. And this original, or one of the very first text adventure games I was playing when my computer was brand new, and I was really into it. I was staying up late and playing it all hours. And I came to this part in the game where it said, you encounter a sleeping dragon in your path. What do you want to do? Sleeping dragon. I typed in, kill dragon. It said, with what, your bare hands? I said, with rock. It said, you can't do that. With sword, you don't have a sword. With spear, there's nothing like that here. I thought, well, okay. Let me see if I can backtrack and go around the other direction, get past the dragon. Nope. Ended up in the same place with the sleeping dragon in my path. I tried everything I could think of. Every time I would encounter it. What do you want to do? I want to kill the dragon. With what? Your bare hands? With magic. With superior thought. With opposable thumbs. He would say, no, that won't work. I was stuck on this for weeks. And then the most amazing thing happened to me. I still think it's a miracle. I was in a Walden Books. That tells you how long ago this is. I was in a Walden bookstore, and I'm looking at the books, and there's a paperback on the shelf that's basically a history of how the personal computer came to be. And this is like 1987, so it's pretty new. And I thought, oh, I bet that's an interesting story. The paperback was about this thick. It was a nice, thick book. I picked it up off the shelf, and I opened it to the middle somewhere, and it said, kill the dragon with what? Your bare hands? Type yes. I opened it to that exact page. And so I couldn't wait to run home. I went home, got back to that room. There's a sleeping dragon in your path. What do you want to do? Kill dragon. With what? Your bare hands? Yes. And it said, congratulations, you have killed the dragon with your bare hands. I thought that was so amazing that I had been looking for this answer for so long. We lose things all the time. We look for them frantically. What are the most common things to lose now? Our keys, our glasses, our phones, what? Our wallets. One more thing. Oh, the remote control. We lose these things and we turn the house up looking for them. And then, of course, people always say, well, it's always in the last place you look. Well, of course it is. You'd have to be crazy to keep looking after you found it. But we lose these things, and oftentimes they don't really affect our life in a huge way, but sometimes they do. I know a couple who lost their wedding ring on the day of their wedding. They had to get married with a bubblegum machine ring. I won't say if they're here today or not, but chances are they are. We lose things, and sometimes they're critically important. And so Jesus tells a story in Luke about three things that are lost. He tells this trio of stories. The first story is one you've heard many times. The third story is one you've heard a lot of times. So I want to focus on the middle story because you don't hear about this story nearly as much. This story that Jesus told about something that is lost. It's from Luke chapter 15. And it says, imagine a woman who has 10 coins and loses one. Won't she light a lamp and scour the house, looking in every nook and cranny until she finds it? And when she finds it, you can be sure she'll call her friends and neighbors, celebrate with me. I have found my lost coin. Count on it. That's the kind of party God's angels throw every time one lost soul turns to God. Now, you may have heard this story, but I've heard it. I'd heard it a lot, or not a lot, but I'd heard it some, and I'd never spent a lot of thought on the story. And when I started looking at it, wanting to see if there was something in there I had not really explored yet, turned out I had not thought about this story enough. This woman has 10 coins and loses one of them. When I first heard the story, I thought, okay, she lost a coin. To us, a coin is maybe a quarter, maybe 50 cents, maybe if we're really exotic, it's a silver dollar. At the time Jesus told this story, a coin was a drachma, a day's pay, a day's wages. She had 10 coins, that's like 2 weeks' salary, and all of a sudden a tenth of it was missing. It was 1/10 of her savings was gone. And so I could see why she would be a little bit frantic about it. I've lost a tenth of my savings. Where could it be? And she begins to look. And Jesus says she lights a lamp. She sweeps the floor. And I never thought about it. I thought, is her house so dirty she has to sweep the floor to look for a coin? And then I went, dummy, the whole floor is dirt. It's not a linoleum floor. It's not a pergo laminate floor. It's dirt. And so she begins to sweep, hoping to uncover this coin. She lights a lamp at a time when oil was precious. She couldn't just flip a switch on the wall. She had to expend her precious resources because she was beginning to get frantic about the loss of this coin. And so she looks and looks and looks. And she eventually finds it. And she's excited. She's joyful. She calls her friend and says, come celebrate with me. I found that missing coin. Now, what's the meaning of that story? Why did Jesus tell that story? Why did he tell these 3 stories? In this story, something really unusual happens. If you're a person who thinks that women get a raw deal in the Bible, in this story, God is the woman. And you are the coin. And Jesus is the lamp. And Jesus is the sweeping. Jesus is the broom. God is so concerned about finding you and reclaiming you that he is willing to expend the light. That he is willing to send his son to clean things up so that he can find you and rescue you. That ought to make you feel good because God went through considerable effort. Now, do you know what the other 2 stories are? Those 3 lost stories. The first one is the story of the shepherd who has 100 sheep. And he's counting the sheep one day out in the field, and there's 99, and I'm sure he counts them again. Maybe a third time, and he says, no, there's only 99. Well, you got 99 sheep. There's only one missing. What's the big deal? But Jesus says, no, he leaves the 99 sheep and he goes out to find the one little lost sheep. And he finds it and he puts it over his shoulders and carries it back to the flock. Remember that story? Jesus, the Good Shepherd? There's whole churches named after this story, the Good Shepherd. There's not any churches named the Lost Money Church. That was the first story. The second story is the one I just told you about the woman losing the coin and searching frantically, turning her house upside down to find it. Lost sheep, lost coin. The third story is about a lost boy. It's the story of the... And how many times have we heard that story? But Jesus told all 3 of these together. Why? because he had a point he wanted to drive home very strongly. And so he tells the same idea in three different ways so that people will grasp it. And he tells it in response to the Pharisees who were talking bad about him, who were criticizing him. Why? Because he hung around with shady people. See, he's a teacher. He's a rabbi. He's a religious authority. He's not supposed to sully himself by hanging out with sinners. That was the thinking of these sinners who didn't believe they were sinners anymore. They said, this ruins your reputation. This shows that you really have kind of a secret attraction to sinful people and sinful things. It's not enough to just preach to them and tell them they need to be better. You're going to dinner with them. You're going to their house to visit. You're bringing them into your inner circle. And so Jesus says, let me tell you what God is like. And he tells about the shepherd going out to find the lost sheep. 1 out of 100. He tells about the woman searching for the lost coin. 1 out of 10. He tells about the lost son. 1 out of 2. Because the father had a second son, remember, that did not run away with the fortune and blow it all. But he tells the story of the kid who goes away and spends his inheritance on partying. And finally, broke, starving, disheveled, disgraced, he makes his way back and says, maybe I can be a servant in my father's house. And Jesus says the father was standing on the porch watching down the road in hopes that his son would be there. How many days had he stood there watching and waiting? And just like with the woman finding her coin, when the son comes home, there's great rejoicing. They're celebrating. There's a literal party because the father says, my son was lost, and now he is found. Jesus was trying to show how much God hungers to find us. What lengths God will go to pick us up out of the dust, to pick us up out of the pig pen, to rescue us from the wilderness where we have wandered away from the flock. God will go to great, incredible lengths to find us again. See, oftentimes we tend to think that God is sitting up there in heaven with a quota to fill. That he's got a checklist and he's saying, well, we need 150,000 new Baptists, and we need 28,000 new Church of Christ, and we need some new Catholics, and we're running short on quota here. And it's not like that at all. He loves us. It's not that he wants to check us off a list. It's not that he wants to use us to fill a quota. It's not that he wants to take us and cookie cutter stamp us into being exactly like everybody else. It's that he made us, and then we were lost. How do you get lost? One of the most heart-stopping moments of my life was when Lindsay was about 4 years old. I took her with me one day to a book and paper show down at Palmer Auditorium. And so we're going through there looking at booths of different collectible things. And I was looking at one table, and I let go of her hand for a second, and when I turned around, she was gone. And there were hundreds of people around. And I just panicked. I thought, oh, no. And I kept turning around, and I saw her maybe 15 feet away. And actually, she was at the table of a guy that I actually knew, and he said, hey, Mike, is this your daughter? I said, yes, thank you. And for a moment, I experienced that sense of panic and loss and fear. God experienced something when we were separated from him because of the choices we made, because of the lives we chose to lead. And he would do anything to bridge that gap. He would follow us into the wilderness. He would get down and get his hands dirty to find us. He would wait for us every day until he saw us coming back down the road to return home. just because he loves you that much. It's not a competition. A lot of times people who are not in a church or not part of a religious faith, they think we're keeping score. They think they're just a number to God. And that's not it at all. Jesus says, when one lost soul is found, the angels throw a party. I like the idea of that. I like the angels having a party with my name on a big banner up there somewhere saying, hey, we got Mike Robertson. And they did that for you. Because God loves us that much. He pursues, he hunts, he wants to find us so badly. Now, do you think it's a coincidence that Jesus told these 3 stories in that order? No, it's not a coincidence. Look how he started. He started with 1 out of 100. A possession, a sheep, a thing that had a little value, but still he had 99 sheep, and yet it was still of enough value for the shepherd to go out and find it. And then the next story is 1 out of 10, and now the value is much greater. There's significant monetary value because this woman has lost a day's wages, a tenth of her savings. And in the third story, it's 1 out of 2, and this time it is a human life. He shows the progression of how God is going to go to extravagant lengths to find you. Whether you're 1 out of 2 or 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 1,000,000 or 1 out of 8 billion, God is still going to search for you and try his best to bring you back into the fold. It is a cause for celebration. It is a cause for party. It's not like, well, I'm giving up my life and joining a church. You all know Amazing Grace. We all have sung that so many times in our life. And the last words of that first verse say, I once was lost, but now I'm found. I was blind, but now I see. Who was lost? God was not lost. You were lost, and he came to find you. What joy, what excitement, what celebration we should be doing, because the God who made all of this, everything that we can see or experience, the God who created the universe said, I am looking for you because I love you and want to bring you back into the fold. You are valuable, my friends. You are loved. You are cherished. And you are sought after by the Creator of the universe. I hope that makes you feel good, because you should. You are God's favorite thing ever.